All right, 3, 2, and 1. All right, Jim, thanks so much for letting me help facilitate this conversation today with Ronnie Fields, obviously Jim Maley of the Maley Way. Ronnie, right now, currently coach of Hope Academy in Chicago, going on his third year, first year, third in state. Last year, won the state title at the Class A level. This year, moving up to Class AA. So a lot going on here with that. Also, Ronnie Fields Elite, going on over 10 years of his own club basketball team as well. So a lot of basketball knowledge, as I said, when we all showed up here, 2 All-Americans and a bench warmer. So I'm just here to kind of help facilitate the conversation. Again, appreciate you, Jim, letting me do this here. But just starting over, we're going to cover a lot here, and just, you know, there's so much knowledge and experience, and just hopefully takeaways that people are going to watch this and be able to implement, or just be able to have a little bit a unique perspective that both of you bring just to life and sports and youth, working with youth. And Jim, I'm going to start off with you. You know, coming out of college, you went into teaching, you went into coaching.
Yeah.
Were you ever mentally just like, I want to do the teaching, but I'm not sure about the coaching?
No. Well, here, before I start, I do want to say one thing. Like, I want to say one thing to you, because like, I was very nervous coming here, because like, this is, I think I told Thatcher, it's like 3 guys: Jordan, Bird, Ronnie Fields. Like, those were the, and I played more like Bird, but those were the guys that I like looked up to as a kid. And you know, I think in the documentary, like, you were a legend in the city of Chicago, but it was also with like the white kids from the suburbs. Like, we all looked up to you. And you know, like, as I heard your story, I think, you know, obviously as I get older, like, I don't look up to basketball players. But, you know, I think what I'm looking up to you as a guy who's like overcome struggle and is able to, you know, now a state champion, now a mentor for kids. Like, I think that's where I look up to you now more than I did then, because of what you've been able to overcome. That's kind of what I want to, like, we could talk about like how your playing days influences your coaching, but I more want to talk about like how you are right now and how you've gotten to this point. So I sorry, I talked for a long time.
Yeah,
this is talking to like one of my guys that I looked up to. So it's
I got you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
And thank you for that. I mean, I think for me, you know, like, when you have this hype in life and you young, sometimes with a lot of hype, you know, a lot of things and responsibilities from, you know, things that you didn't expect start to come into your way. But the ultimate goal, once you look at, you know, especially growing up, you know, with my mom, my grandma, my family, it's still, at the end of the day, it's a job. It's being successful and making it in life, right?
Yeah.
So that's always been the goal. For me, it was still the goal regardless of the basketball, whatever. But basketball was one thing I was blessed to do, and the talent that I had, I was able to put on display. And through some of those mistakes and those hiccups, my mindset still remained to learn from it, but still persevere to still be successful.
Yeah.
And you learn so much from that. And for me, it was like, all right, you can look at it like this. You can not only let yourself down, but you can let a lot of people down that probably struggled in life and just gave up from just even trying to continue to be successful.
Yeah.
It's something,
Yeah.
right? So by me being able to come out of those things and be where I'm at today, I'm hoping like a lot of people can see that not even athletes can be just with anything in life, that you still can persevere and make some of yourself and, you know, being productive to your family, your life, and society.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Well, and I would argue too, like, just to go with that point, like, I feel like you can have more impact, and you look at it like now, like, it's like almost reframing what I think of my own stuff. Like, if I would have played college basketball, played all 4 years, and like none of my mental health stuff, I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be having like impact. And I think same with you. Like you go and play in the there's a lot of guys who went and play in the NBA that have become like not good guys. Where like to me, like you've made it in a way where now you're able to have more impact, which I think. That's why I wanted to have you on, because I think that's the cool part of it. So, sorry, Thatcher.
Yeah,
I kind of I wanted to say that before I forgot.
Yeah,
so.
no, but that's kind of what we're trying to cover here in this discussion, in just with your guys' experiences. In Jimmy, I'll just go back to the original question. It was kind of like, you had this experience with basketball, and you said in your video, like, you were at a place where you hoped that you were going to tear your Achilles or be injured. I mean, that can be you're associating that with a sport, and then coming out of college, you're like, okay, I'm gonna get right back into this sport.
Yeah.
Like basketball, even like kind of what we do, creative services, creative stuff, it gives and it takes.
Yeah.
So like, what made you want to get back into coaching when you started off at Kenwood, knowing that you were a teacher too?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing is that, well, first I became a stock trader. I was doing that, and which was fun. It was like really fun, but I was working like the overnight shift from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. We were trading the European markets.
Foreign markets, yeah.
Yeah, and that was not the life I wanted to live. And I guess I went to Holy Cross. That's where I graduated from after Northwestern. And their big thing was like men and women for others. Like that was what their motto was. And I guess I wanted to find something that I could be a man for other people. And so my initial thought was when I became a stock trader, I wanted to make $1 billion and then I could use money to help other people. And then it became like, all right, well, how else can I do that? Well, teaching and coaching, basketball is something I was good at. And, my dad was coaching at the time. My sister was a teacher. And like my dad worked in the business world for 30 plus years, never heard him once talk about it. When he became a teacher, he never shut the hell up about it. Like he was like he loved it. So like that kind of inspired me. And my mom was a teacher too. And I started out at Kenwood, and I think it was like I was talking to you about this. It was an eye-opening experience because you kind of realize how lucky we were at LT with just like all the facilities. And I talk about even from a coaching perspective, like even when I got to Conant, like we have like an AD, assistant AD, secretary, and CPS. I don't know if it's changed, but at that time there was no full-time AD. They taught full load of classes. So like you're doing everything. And
as a teacher and coach, basically.
Yeah, like you're like calling the buses, you're doing this, you're doing that, you're sweeping the floor, like you're doing study hall, you're doing all this for hours, and I don't know, I loved it though, and I felt like I had a better I still talk to those kids. I have a better relationship with some of those kids than I even do now at the kids I work with.
And that's going back to about over a decade.
Yeah, and I think I invested more time because you had to. And I don't know, I just kind of I guess I could see there maybe was trepidation that I would fall back into like my mental health stuff, which I did. But it still was gratifying that I was doing something to try to help in a way.
Yeah, and then Ronnie, people that know your story know that you played professionally, like Jimmy said, for over a dozen years all over the world. But even when you started to look at retirement, were you looking at what you're doing now? Like you're still in basketball, but did you ever is that what you wanted to do? Or was it natural, or mentally were you able to continue this story of your life running parallel to basketball?
I think that was the thing of when I retired, it was more like a lot of it was based on my daughter, which was allow me to play and travel for that many years, and then when I was telling the story when I realized, when I come home, we'll talk, and I asked her, when you want me to retire, when you want me to be done?
Yeah. And
she would always say, I understand that, that's your job, and that's what you do. And I never forget when I realized that I was going to hang it up. It was in the middle of a game, and she didn't know. This was one of the seasons my agent didn't even know. And I looked at one of my teammates, and was I was on the bench. We up 10. I think I got 20 points at half. And I was like, yeah, I think I'm done. He's like, what you finna do? I was like, he's like, you finna walk out again? I said, no, I think I'm done playing. I think I'm, hang it up.
Yeah.
And he like, retire? I say, yeah. So he's staring at me, the coach up there talking about the second half. He just looked, the teammate just staring at me like, you for real? So go back out there and, continue. I ended up having like 40 points. And then he asked me, when we got a big enough lead, I'm sitting there by me like, he's still playing at a high level. Why you want to stop? I was like, because when you get to that point and you start thinking about it, you already got one foot out the door.
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. Regardless of what people may see from the playing standpoint, what you feeling inside.
Yeah.
So for me, when I was like done and I, told my agent and I got back home, I sat down to have this conversation, which was crazy, with my daughter again.
Yeah.
And when I asked her this time, she was like, yeah, I think it's time to hang it up. Not realizing I already had that in mind. So that's, when I did it, I'm home, and then one of my friends was like, hey, why don't you come coach our 5th grade team?
Yeah.
I'm like, what? So I was like, all right, why not? And I ended up doing it. But then I started to realize certain things of all the knowledge and things I soaked up, playing, listening to them coaches, and then seeing how to apply coaching 5th graders of placing guys in the right place. But I'm like, wait a minute, this may work. And then I started enjoying it.
Yeah.
And then that's when, I talked with Thatcher and Steve about start doing a travel program, and that's when all this came up.
Yeah.
In that last season, was that the one in Puerto Rico?
Yeah.
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 Season.
That was an interesting transition. That was right before I had met you too. You had gone to Puerto Rico too to play. So, and so moving along here, present day, and I'd love to get your guys' perspective on just working with kids in this era. Jim, I know it's a loaded question.
Yeah.
But and I needed the Cliff Notes version here.
Yeah.
For the sake of attention span.
Yeah.
Like, how have you approached working with kids, given all that you've been through with the athletic side and also the mental health side?
Well, I was telling Ronnie earlier, the big thing for me is I think people misconstrue I had these mental health struggles and deep, dark, really bad, hospitalized bad, and I think people misconstrue that I am gonna be this pushover as a teacher, and that I'm gonna baby and coddle kids, which it's actually I'm the exact I'm this is the rule, and we're gonna follow the rule, and I will enforce, and I just think kids need that just from in general, but from a mental health perspective, I think having boundaries and rules and consequences is the best thing. Because what I don't deal well with uncertainty as somebody who struggles. And if you don't have a system, rules, boundaries, to me that can lead to more mental health problems.
That's a great point.
So that's kind of what I see, and that's what I try to do with kids, and I try to do it even in the city, suburbs, no different. I think, that stuff is needed.
And Ronnie, you're kind of run parallel to Jimmy as well in the sense that you have your club team out here. You kind of run it in the suburban area. You have Hope, which is obviously a city school. But what's your approach in just managing kids these days, and just how do you approach that?
What Jimmy just was saying was, he said, not having uncertainty is not good, especially when you're dealing with the youth today. So almost you got to give them the direction. And sometimes with that direction, yes, you get some pushback.
Yeah.
But you got to stick to a discipline and a boundary. So for me, with players there, even from the best player to the worst player, I always tell our kids story about what happened with what the coach did with me and Kevin, and being late and playing around to where he kicked us out of practice, made us walk home. Mm-hmm. So the other team where they going? Oh, they won't be at practice, and then not playing. Mm-hmm. The one thing we learned, me and Kevin, we learned from a lot of those things what the coach did when you don't want to do what you're supposed to do and listen or follow guidelines. I don't care if y'all the stars or not. Is the effect that it had on your teammates, right?
You're
because
setting
they
the
depend on
example.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So it's the effect you have on them because it's like it made us look selfish in a way when you look out there knowing your teammates depend on you, and we looked at each other like we getting killed. That's our fault.
Yeah.
Because we was thinking about us.
Yeah.
Right? And what I did, at Hope is like, look, listen, I was a teenager. I made mistakes. And I don't want you guys to follow those mistakes. So for me, it's like, no, you ain't playing today. Or like, all right, you got to sit out this quarter. If you do this, you ain't playing this game. Or if it's really bad, you got to miss 3 games.
Yeah.
But the one thing I learned in terms of being able to get these kids to see both sides and not to just always on them, I had to be like, all right, you make a mistake in the game, you come out, that don't mean you're going to sit there. Yeah. To a point where my players, they knew they come out, they stay ready because I'm going to give them another chance. Mm-hmm. So they trusted me in that way. And then when they did great things, they was rewarded. Yeah. It was like, all right, in life you do the right things, eventually your reward will come. So it's like all these teaching lessons of, letting them know, all right, this can happen when you do this right. This can happen when you do this wrong. This none in between. And when I did that, really my first year, but more my second year, eliminated all those distractions and gave a one baseline rule of what we're going to do. And the focus, we end up winning. Yeah. But like you said, you have to let these kids know and you have to put them in the place they need to be in to understand, look, that's not going to help you, not going to help your team. And what you're going to need to do to be successful is focus. Yeah. So.
And Jim, obviously you were Division I player. Ronnie, you were number 2 in the country your senior year. When you're dealing with parents.
Oh, boy.
And this kind of isn't quite mental health per se, but I think it affects the kids ultimately.
I think it's going to be mental health. That's going to destroy a kid. But go ahead. Yeah.
Well, my thing is that it's just, for better or worse, it's just different. That's what it is these days with parents, and they have the high school team, the club team. We grew up, I played at the YMCA at Ogden and LaGrange Road. I mean, that was it. That was my club team, right? But Jim, what was your as a teacher even and as a coach, how did you manage parents and their expectations? And did you ever have to flex a little to be like, hey, I was a Nike All-American. I promise you I know what I'm talking about when it comes to your child's skill level.
Yeah, I mean, it happened at all 3 schools that I was at. There would be times where parents would say, and I just look at it from a perspective my father. My father was played Division I basketball at a small school, Holy Cross, small Division I basketball, and he would be at a game, and you might not remember this, but he would sit there in silence. He would not say anything. He was never critical of the coach. He was never critical of me. He was always super positive after the game, and that was a guy who played at a fairly high level, and then now I see I don't want to put people I see these guys who maybe they are big in the business world or they're big in whatever, and they think that gives them some authority over the coach, and they're not in practice, they're not anywhere, they're not there, and I see it even with my own kids. I have a 9-year-old, and he's starting some of the travel stuff, and I'm seeing these parents just all over kids, all over the refs, even if the ref is a 14-year-old kid. It's just relax, and use sport. To me, it's how about we use sports for what you've become today? Use sports to motivate kids. Use basketball as a tool, not as this is how I'm going to get a college. nobody gets a college scholarship. That's so rare. Like, it's so rare. Yes. It's so rare to get to that point.
I mean, you guys are statistical anomalies.
Yeah,
really,
yeah.
You know? And Ronnie, where you're at right now too, because obviously you're doing a school. You have a school environment. You have a club environment. And you're dealing with parents all the time. What's your perspective and what advice can you give to people to kind of manage these expectations?
Well, like what he was just saying is like, when you're dealing with the parents today, is like, if a person hadn't played ball and done it at a high level, he was in Northwestern. The thing is, for me, is like me playing ball and all the things I learned and coaches I've been around. You would think more parents would be like, all right, this person can understand what it takes, what my kid need to do, and see talent. Especially, it goes back to the thing when you're saying being invited to the Nike All-American Camp. That was hard. Like, you just don't, it's millions of kids, and only probably, couple hundred got invited there, and that was the best of the best from the country. So evidently, a player doing something right to be invited there. Especially out of Chicago at the time, based for basketball, some of the best, right? So you have that you can always lean back on and explain to his parents, like, I've done this, I know what I'm doing. And you don't never want to get to a point where you really have to flex and do that, but in these days you have to. Mm-hmm. And the bad part about it, if you're being truthfully honest when you're trying to develop their kid, and you know how it is when they looking at potential or him trying to play at a high school level, and you tell them that a lot of parents don't want to trust and think that until they get there, right? So for me, I'm like, look, these are the things if he work on, he can do from this standpoint, especially you late in the game to learning it. Mm-hmm. There's too many kids that's been playing a little bit longer, right? Now, if you end up getting to 6'4", 6'5", that could make a huge difference as well. But for me, even at Hope, coaching there and like getting the parents to understand, to trust me to do what's best for the team. Yeah. And sometimes it ain't gonna be what's best for your kid, because at the end of the day, as coaches, and basketball is a team sport, right? And for me, I had to maneuver through those things there. And for most teams, and you know this, play 6, 7 kids in high school. Yeah. I played 10.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I played 10, and I try to go according to matchups to get guys and develop them, and I played young guys. But, parents I understand they want their kid to be in the limelight, to be talked about. That's what it comes down to. Yeah. Because if you got so many and all their kids talk about it, and you might have, out of the group, you might have 1 or 2 of them are good, and the others not, the parents want their kid to be talked in that discussion. Mm-hmm. So now you get them all at the game. Yeah. And if one kid not doing well and his friends with his mom, now they want to critique the coach and what they should do. I think the greatest joy of proving a person wrong is focusing and going out there, doing what's best for the team, and leading them. Yeah. And it was crazy when it was the first year I heard, oh, luck or this or that. And then I come back with 3 or 4 guys that was on teams that they didn't play their senior year, and brought them in, formed a system around them, and then told their parents to trust me. Yeah. And they kid them to win the state title. Mm-hmm. But that's one of the hardest things to this day, because every parent, yes, you want your kid to be, in the limelight or noticed, but it's not going to work like that. If you have a certain role the coach want them to do may be different from this kid have a unique skill. Mm-hmm. So breaking it down to them, sometimes they don't want to hear it or care to hear it. That's why you see kids move a lot.
Well, you know what? You said something. You said the potential, and I forget who said this, but I heard somebody say this once. They're like, well, every parent always sees their own kid's potential and everybody else's weakness. So obviously, potential is always way above weakness. But one of the things I did, I don't know if you've ever done this, usually the kids know. The kids understand.
They play with.
If you say, I did this once where I had all the kids write down who should start. It was always what I thought, which is a lot different than what their parents thought. You know what I mean? And it's just the kids usually know better.
Yes.
Because they're there. They're there at the
In this A and B team stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And then transitioning to the actual game environment, Jim, start with you here. How did you process that mentally? Because you've mentioned this on the podcast too, so everyone kind of knows, you threw up a lot, during practices.
Yeah.
I don't think you ever did during games, because games are technically
I did
easier.
a little bit, but not.
The one year I played with you.
Yeah.
But looking back on it, but leading up into the games, were you that nervous going into games, or were you at peace going into the game? Did you ever have anxiety during games? I forgot who it was, and I'm trying to go a little bit.
Yeah.
But you hit a game, I think you either a game winner or game tire our sophomore year early on.
Yeah.
I forgot. Maybe it was a Thanksgiving tournament, or maybe it was it was a big shot. It was a big shot. I remember that. But were you nervous going into games? Because you were also a sophomore too. When you were with us, how did you process that? And then going to Northwestern, were you nervous before games? How did you mentally walk through the games, and what was going on in your head given the caliber of player that you were?
Yeah, I was always really nervous. Before the games, I would be pacing around, get the stomach. I never threw up. I threw up all the time at practice. Yeah. That was more because I was so physically weak, I would throw up. But that's kind of when the game, I think when the ball went up, I usually jumped the center spot. You jump the center spot. It was usually almost automatically, I was fine then. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things when I talk about it, when I was at Northwestern and Bill Carmody said he thought I might be going through depression, all I'm thinking, hearing him say is you're not mentally tough, Jimmy. And to me that bothered me, because as you said, and I don't mean to say this, but out of the course of my life, in terms of game winners, I was 14 for 15. It was you know what I mean? To me, I was mentally tough, and I was 6'7", you believe, 165 pounds playing at Northwestern, 6'7". So I always say this, I wasn't physically tough at all, but the mental toughness, I thought I had, because during the games it kind of would go away.
You were almost at peace. The
yeah,
game
once the game
brought
started,
you peace almost.
Yeah, no matter what the situation, I was fine.
And do you have any advice for people, how could players get there, or how can a coach up a kid to get to that mental place where they're at peace once the game starts?
Well, I think probably with Ronnie, I practice nonstop, so it's I knew I had the ability to, go out there and do stuff. I think I just, you have to have that inner drive that gets you to that point that you're nervous because you're gonna about to go out there and compete. It's kind of hard, I think. I think you just got to have those guys who really want to compete and really want to practice to try to get better.
Yeah, and then Ronnie, transitioning kind of the same question for yourself. Obviously, in high school, you packed gyms, but then also when you played professionally, CBA, you played, it's a different level of pressure. You know what I mean? Where there you're playing for your team, but you're also at that time it was basically the G League of the NBA. So you knew there were NBA scouts watching every game. You had guys going up and down from at that point. Then you played internationally where you still had packed gyms. How did you process the actual game moment, and were you ever nervous?
All the time.
That's an interesting response, because you were so athletic, you felt that how could Ronnie Fields be nervous?
People understand this. When you getting ready for a game, much as you practice, it's almost like a nervous anxiousness.
Yeah.
To when you ball goes up, all of that goes out. But leading up to it, you trying to listen to music. You trying to do stuff to just get all that out of the way, that jitteriness, all those things out of the way. And I remember one time we was at hoops and playing against Mike when he made his second comeback. asking those questions, and a lot of guys, he's like, yeah, it's called, to me, it's an anxiousness ready to get out there.
Mike being Michael Jordan, who's the gym, like, just for clarification.
Oh, I knew exactly what that
For the listeners at home.
Yeah, so it's like,
I was just thinking about how awesome that is that you played against them. But
And you were in high school.
yeah. And then even when he made his comeback, when we had the ABA with David Booth, we had those private workouts, and like he just, we playing pickup, but I, like getting ready for a game in like one, you see all these people. The one thing that that you don't think about is the failure aspect of it.
Yeah.
Because when you do, your mind start to dwindle on the first play, first shot you miss, boom, all of a sudden that is in your head.
Yeah.
So for me, it was just more like trying to find a reason to be mad.
Yeah.
Like and lock in.
Yeah.
Going out there. But yes, I did have the nervous bug, especially every game got bigger, you just feel different. Sometimes you wouldn't even sleep. I wouldn't even sleep at night. Getting ready for a game.
Yeah, no, that's great insight, guys. Thank you so much for sharing all of this. And then just kind of transitioning to the modern day mental health as well. I have to ask, and we'll go back and forth here, but just the element of social media, and I'm not saying social media is a big umbrella. I'm talking about the youth sports, the Venn diagram of youth sports and social media.
Yeah.
And what is that doing mentally from your perspective to kids younger and younger?
Well, I just think, just imagine if, like, first of all, you would have been even bigger than you already were if social media, like, all that stuff, but then, like, every single thing that you do wrong in a game, someone's posting it, some nerd, like I say to say, but some like nerd who's never played basketball is like, oh, look at Ronnie Fields or look at Jimmy Maley, they turned the ball over. Like, these kids now, like, they don't have any privacy in a way.
Yeah, you hear that on. It's funny you said that.
Yeah.
You hear that on some guy's podcast, and I'm like, look, did this dude look like he never even picked up a ball?
Yeah.
But they trying to break down. I always looked at basketball like this. When you're looking at greats, like some of the greatest of the greats in moments, right?
Yeah.
And you say you hit a lot of game-winning shots, right? So you know what the mindset is like to take a shot when everything's on you. I've been in those situations. And to understand when you hit game-winning shots, couple can be lucky. But to do it a lot, when you don't even see it a lot, even at the NBA level, where a lot of people got those type of moments, right?
Yeah.
That's when you see the difference of greatness in moments where the focus is solely on believing every shot you get was to tie or take a lead, you're gonna win or hit it.
Yeah.
Tying is a little bit different than going for a flat-out win, right? So to be in those moments for a lot of guys that never took a shot like that or played a lot of games on that stage, they wouldn't know. You can break down a guy for missing a lot of those shots or not performing in moments. Some people can and some people can't. It's not the easiest situation to be in to like, no, okay, you get one, you miss, but as you get in those games where you start getting out of 82 games, you see that shot 20.
Yeah.
It's more magnified now, like, well, he won for 19 and game go ahead shots.
Yeah. And do you ever like, because I'm sure we've both missed big shots. Like when like a guy misses something or like he screws up in a big moment, like that always like affects me because I'm like, oh God, I just know how that. You obviously you know how all the great stuff that happened, but you also know like those low moments, and you kind of feel that for that. Like I hate when people are like critical of like I don't know certain guys.
And see, that's why I say it goes back to like having experience in those moments, because when I see people that never been in those moments critique players, or never performed or been at that level, it lets me know more about them than the person you're critiquing that you don't know or what's going on or what the person may be dealing with. Some people can deal with things in different ways and come out and that night hit that shot. Some people can come out, it can be other stuff going on where they still perform, but that one shot they may have missed. And for me, when people, you've never been in that situation, it's crazy when I hear a lot of people talk about it. Like, and they're not talking about it in a positive way or flipping it in the favor of, okay, well, you have the balls to take that shot. Regardless if you make it or not. A lot of people tend to not, like I said, not know what a lot of those players in the NBA or college go through in certain moments of a game. That's it.
Yeah, and then, you know, I got to ask you, Jim, as you get older here in life and everything you've been through, you said a game-winning shot. Like, life is a lot like a game-winning shot, right? I'm going to take risk. It's either going to work or it's not, and I'm going to live with the result. And you've done that by doing the Maley Way here and going, you know, in anybody that knew Jimmy growing up, he was a really quiet kid, like literally like a quiet kid, like across the board. Like
wouldn't talk to anyone.
Like shy, quiet, and that you're doing this now. So like, is it kind of, is there a little bit of the runs parallel in that, like, hey, I'm going to do this. It might have impact, it might not, but I'm going to do it, and I'm going to live with the results.
I mean, I feel like part of like my mentals, I'm like almost obsessive, like obsessive compulsive in a way, where like as a basketball player, like, I mean, you kind of knew, like I was just like relentless practicer, like that's all I did, basketball, 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 and you know, like I didn't talk to anyone, like you said, didn't talk to girls, didn't meet my first girlfriend till I was in senior year of high school, who ended up becoming my wife. But anyways, like, so like I become obsessive about things, and like now I've become like obsessive about this, especially because I see what it's been doing for other people. And when like, and it kind of like, that's, again, this is why I wanted to talk to you, is because I use this concept that I say share selfishly. Okay, you'll get this as a basketball player. So when I was a basketball coach, I would say screen selfishly, be a selfish screener. And what I meant by that is like, I know that I love to set back screens. One, I am a good teammate, but two, if I set a good screen, now I'm popping out. Now I get my shot. So now I say like share selfishly, and I think this is something that you were saying you do as well. Like I share my story with mental health. I share it about depression, and yes, 90% of the reason I do it is to help all these other people, but 10% is because it helps me. It makes me feel good. And I think the same thing that I'm hearing from you, like you were talking about how you would share some of your struggles and pitfalls from when you were young as a phenomenal player. I mean, I think that is like the best thing that I've heard, because you are truly making that impact. And I'm guessing it makes you feel good to do that as well, like to help others in that way.
That's one of the things, like even we had talked about, I think once you see like that, you know, your message can impact others, then from there it's like, all right, you realizing the things you went through, you was put in these situations for a reason. Now, caring, that's one of the biggest things. I'm one of the most caring people, you know, like I want everyone to succeed. I like, you know, like even with the players now, my one kid, senior night, and I didn't know this, but his parents didn't show up, you know, to walk him out. So I was able to do that. But then it got you thinking, like, when you see those situations of kids, it's like how much more you can do, how much more impact or resources you can use to help these young men. And it's hard today, even though like what we doing is positive and we want to help change, and we will make a dent for most kids. But a lot of the kids that have this social media experience, and that's what's pushing them and driving them to where like you can be telling the kid hey, focus on this at this age. But then we look back when we was younger, even though we tell them the right thing now,
Yeah.
in their mind they looking at it like, I'm still young, or I had some parents say, well, you let them be a teenager.
Yeah.
The problem in this day and age now, it's more teenagers losing their lives in areas and places that they want to hang out. Like, we want every kid to have something going positive for themselves and have positive influences around them. But some of them don't. But then you got the friends that do have something going for themselves, and they still want to hang around the kids that don't have nothing going for themselves.
Yeah.
And then you have a parent that's trying to talk to them, and sometimes maybe a single parent. And that's the hardest thing a lot of the kids dealing with today is like, well, they're my boys, they love me. Well, them your boys, and right now they want to hang out all day and not trying to craft something what they want to do for their life. You, on the other hand, have a chance to go play college, take advantage of opportunity, right?
Yeah.
They should be pushing you to go do that and not be hanging out in a situation where I've seen year after year where kids that came home from school to go hang out with friends. One of my buddies had his brother mistakenly end up getting shot and paralyzed. He was home from Howard University.
Jeez, yeah.
And because his brother was into it with something,
Yeah.
one, they ended up getting him while he was home. Howard still honored everything for him, but he's in a wheelchair for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
So you deal with trying to tell kids you don't want to say not enjoy their life, but you also trying to warn them
Yeah. Yeah.
of these pitfalls.
Well, I think thing too. When I first got to Kenwood, I was the sophomore coach, and there was a guy, C.J. Rogers was the varsity coach, and he was kind of doing like let's use basketball as a tool. We're going to get these kids to have better grades. We're going to get them to go to class. We're going to get them not to be late to class, and then I took over, and one of the things that he said to me, he goes like, listen, like, you're a white dude from the suburbs, like, I know what you're thinking. Like, you're gonna think that you should like feel sorry and let these kids off the hook on certain things. And he was like, that'd be the worst thing that you can do. And he was like, hey, you gotta keep this going. And like, that's what I try to do. And like, I saw so many positive results when you were like using the basketball to be like, hey, let's use this to do because all the kids would meet the standard. They would meet the standard. You know what I mean?
Play,
yeah, they want to play. Like,
Yeah, these are all such great points that you all are making here. And so, Ronnie, just kind of thinking too, how much has your mental toughness pushed you and gotten you to where you're at, given all that you've been through, and also looking at that mental toughness, and we kind of talked about this the other day, the mental toughness and the mental health part of it, in trying to really utilize both in given all that you've been through?
I think, like, when you, like I said, you get in those places, where it's like you saying to yourself, what do you want your life and to be remembered as that can give back and help others, right? Because, like, even with Jimmy's situation, my situation, it's a lot more people out there in our situations that can use to help, need someone that can publicly speak on it and not be afraid to talk about what they may be dealing with or what's going on, to, like, guys like us can kind of help them maybe navigate certain things through life. I don't think it's enough. I think it's out there more now than it was back then. And I think now bringing light to the mental health, the mental toughness in life, on how you try to break down those walls, could be good talking to people that have been through those things. So for me, like, sitting down with Jimmy is probably just opening those doors and that line of communication for a lot of youth out here and parents that may want to quietly talk to Jimmy or a guy like myself on their kid than what he may be dealing with.
Yeah.
And I think that's more important now in how you go about it and get that message out to be open to helping these young men
Absolutely.
and women.
Yeah. Jimmy, with what you have going on here, you're not coaching anymore. You're a teacher.
Yep.
Specifically.
Much better teacher now than I used to be. When I was coaching, I know my principal might listen to this, but like I was not as focused on the teaching aspect. I was pretty much all in on the coaching aspect.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
But just in terms of your approach, what Ronnie was talking about now you're kind of known as somebody that kids can go to.
Yeah.
How has that kind of just affected your dynamic within not only the school community that you teach at, but also just your life in general, being that you have really been, amplifying your message and putting it out there?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm almost known. I always say I'm known as like depression guy at school now, where like kids do come and talk to me, and it's funny. I'm always like, I know looking at me, like I'm kind of a big dude. You might be a little intimidated, but I'm actually like a good guy to talk to about this, because I think I've experienced it, and that's it. I think there's something relatability. Same thing with you. There's something relatable about a guy who actually went through it versus, reading something in a book or looking at a PowerPoint. And, now I'm kind of doing that. And I think Ronnie said something I think is so important, because he said, talking to the parents about stuff like this, because guys our age, we didn't hear the kids nowadays are a little more well-versed. We didn't, nobody talked about this. And, so I think sometimes when I go around and I speak to parent groups, that's almost more effective, because they grew up in an era where this was not mentioned, I guess you would say. So I think it kind of can work both ways.
And like you said, when you were going through your stuff at Northwestern, the Carmody was actually the one who identified this as a potential, maybe you are going through depression.
Yeah, and that was the first
Was
time.
that the first person who had ever even brought this up to you?
That was the first, and it ran in my family, and I know my dad, I think, sometimes feels like he missed something. But when you're like that, a lot of times become a good actor. They don't see what was going on, and Carmody did see it though, but like you said, I was a stubborn Irishman and just didn't want to listen. It was just I had no education. I guess that's what I'm trying to do, is have more education about it. I had no education, even health class. We never even talked about stuff like that.
And Ronnie, I got to ask you, when you were coming up as a kid, I mean, for people that don't remember that time, it was when the 2 years Jordan was done. You guys were the news every night. You were going through a lot. Did you have a shoulder you could talk to, or were you really just navigating this as a 16, 17-year-old kid by yourself? Who was the first person who even kind of said, hey, do you need to talk, or anything like that? Who was your outlet during those years? And I should say from that, even into the CBA and when you were playing professionally as a young kid.
I think for me, really, it was just a lot of people was around from the standpoint of the basketball, right? Of what potentially I can do and be. And, when I look back on a lot of those things, and I even see it more now, of people around you for what you make and do for them, especially then. And now when I sit down and every day when I talk with kids and even some of my coaches, I really mentally went through that on my own, right? And my family, my sister, my brother, my mom, and my daughter and them, that's always been there, even when my focus was just solely on getting back out there, getting back to what I love, what kept me away from even losing it was getting back on the floor.
Yeah.
Right? and entertaining, and it's like when you go out there and do something and you have so many people cheering for you, you feel like you can do no wrong, right?
Yeah.
Until a lot of those things stop, and then you wonder like, well, where everybody at, right? I know myself with that, I've seen other athletes speak on it, but then you start to learn more about life, and you start to pay attention to yourself, and then actually the people around that, when you meet, they just people that generally care about you as a person, not you as an athlete.
Yeah.
I met those type of guys later on in my life.
Yeah.
And I
You say later on, so you really felt like you went
Yeah.
through basically probably
Yeah.
your teens and 20s.
Yeah, just me out there. Because you got to think, it was how quick and fast we get Ronnie to the next level, right? So it was all that going on, basketball here and there. And in my mind, playing was like a sanctuary for me. Mm-hmm. So that helped me through life. And then also traveling the world and maturing, because you're forced to mature on your own as a young man. You know, you with an agent, but at the time, your agent ain't always with you. You got to think you're playing professional ball in another country at the age of 19 years old.
Yeah.
So we had to learn a lot from there, and that's what grew me, and mentally, like determining to like use all experience, the ups and downs in life to be stronger mentally moving forward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great, Ronnie. That's probably a great way to end the episode here of the Maley Way. Again, Thatcher came in here, the bench warmer. Ronnie Fields, All-American. Jim Maley, All-American.
We're not the same type of All-American.
But yeah, no, I just appreciated the opportunity to be able to help facilitate this conversation. I hope people that are watching or listening to this are going to have some great takeaways, and then reach out to Ronnie, reach out to Jimmy, see, you know, if you need help, whether you're an athlete yourself, maybe a parent, an educator, looking to just bring in some people that can help facilitate these conversations for in person as well. I think there's a lot of value that you all bring, and I give you guys so much credit for just being as transparent as you are with everything that you all have been through, because a lot of people, you know, just aren't comfortable doing that, and you guys are. And so just appreciate the opportunity here, and thanks everybody for tuning in and listening.
Thank you.
Is that good?